Hello, welcome to the Homeschool Solutions Show. My name is Sean Allen, and I am one of the many hosts here on the podcast. Since you're listening to this, I'm guessing you already know that homeschooling is both incredibly challenging and incredibly beautiful. Every week, we're here to wing a little guidance, some helpful counsel, and a whole lot of encouragement your way as you navigate this busy yet blessed journey of educating your children at home. Now, even though the show is called Homeschool Solutions, it should come as no surprise to you that we do not have the answer to every homeschool-related question. But if you come away with nothing else, our hope is that today's episode will point you to Jesus Christ and that you will seek His counsel as you train your children in the way they should go. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the podcast. In talking to the producers of this show, I was encouraged to make some shorter episodes, and I thought that was a really good idea. Not only did it help me to actually complete this task, it was very much appreciated in that regard, but also I thought it was a great idea because they're just like shorter snippets and just more brief treatments of some principles that I think are very important, but it's kind of more bite-sized. You know, you could go on and on about this stuff. There's a lot to it, but sometimes it's just easier to digest if it's shorter. So I really liked that recommendation. I'm taking full advantage of it. So, the thought that I wanted to bring to you today is the importance of talking to your children. I've said many things about this in the past, and I'm going to keep saying it because the more that time goes on, the more I realize just how integral this is to a wholesome, healthy relationship with your child, and they with you. This is so important. I've noticed that in the life of the people that I know who are older than I am, particularly my parents, other family members, just talking to lots of different people. Well, a lot of people on the road too, at conventions and things, and you start to get a little more information on who they are and where they came from, and you realize that there wasn't a lot of talking going on in the home. That's unfortunate. That doesn't mean that their parents didn't love them or that they weren't committed to them or anything like that. But they missed this necessity. They missed this element or this aspect of their obligation towards their child, and it involved them communicating to them and allowing their child to communicate with them. So very important. And if there's so many things that can go wrong if you're not doing this. And if you just assume that if you just assume that you know what's going on in your child's mind or in their heart, I think that's a trick. It really is a trick, and sometimes it's easy for us to be tricked into thinking that, oh, I know what they're doing. I know why they're doing that. I know why we're wrestling with this. And you have completely missed the trail. You're off on some other tangent. And you don't really know because you never asked. You never gave your child the opportunity to tell you. And interestingly enough, most children, I think, want to be honest with you. If they don't, if the threat that they feel that you pose or that you present to them is greater than the benefit that they would derive from actually being open and transparent with you, then they're obviously going to lie, or they're not going to tell you the whole truth. And I've seen this with my children multiple times. Like, you tell them, okay, I want to hear the truth. What did you do? Do not lie to me. And I've seen this with my children. They're looking at me and they're like, they're weighing their options, They're trying to analyze, like, okay, what's the threat level here? What do I stand to lose if I don't tell them the truth? I know that there's also risk with that, but it's a value proposition there. And all the roads lead to pain, but which road leads to the least pain? And you can try to convince them, like, if you tell me a lie, it's going to be even worse, and all these different sorts of things. But see, they're hedging their bets. Like, well, if I lie, though, how would you ever find out? if I'm telling the truth or not. You wouldn't know. And so then I basically get off. And so you've got to be very careful with that, because if you're the kind of person that feels like it's your obligation to make it as hard on them as possible, and that's the thing that's going to deter them from evil, or that's the thing that's going to deter them from disobedience. Not all children are like that. They're not all like that. Some children can take a lot of abuse, and I don't mean like literal abuse. I'm talking about, I'm using that in a very general sense. Please don't misunderstand me. I mean the grounding, the spanking, the yelling, the removal of privileges, those sorts of things. They have a very high pain tolerance. Let's just put it to you that way. And so in your mind, you're thinking, well, I can inflict some damage here. I can take your phone away. I can take your iPad away. I could take whatever. And that's going to hurt you. And some children are like, you know what? I'm pretty good. I can handle that. Some children, you can spank them and they just doesn't really faze them at all. And, but that's the way that you go about that. That's the way that you think that you're going to extract the truth from them. And actually the effect that you're having on them is that their heart is closing up and it's becoming hardened. And then they padlock it. And then they put another padlock on it. And then they hide it. You see where I'm going with this? It's becoming impenetrable. And you'll never get to the truth. Now, what I believe is your responsibility and my responsibility. By the way, I'm not saying that that punishments aren't at times in order. They are. Oftentimes that's what needs to happen. But if you think that that's the only way that you're going to get into your child's heart, I think that ultimately that is not true. And I think certainly in specific instances with specific children, it'll never be true. It'll never be true. Like, that's not how they operate, and that's not the voice that they're going to listen to. And so regardless, whether you have a child who is very moved or motivated by quote unquote pain or the removal of privileges, or whether you have a child that doesn't really move the needle with them at all, they all need talked to. Every one of them. And I said I was going to make this short, but I could go on about this for a very long time because it is so important. It's so nuanced. It's one of those simple, complicated things. Like, how deep do you want to go, sort of thing. And that's really your job. I'm going to leave that to you. You need to be the one to plumb the depths of this issue. Because what you'll find is that once you start to venture into the space that is your child's heart, you will realize just how complex of a thing that you're dealing with. It's very multifaceted. It's very complicated. It's very unique. It's very specific. And yet very broad and vast and beautiful and fascinating. It's a fascinating thing. And that goes for your youngest children on up to your oldest children. And so, but you're never really going to know unless you talk to your children and you allow them to talk to you. And they need to feel as if they can freely talk to you. Okay? Maybe there is something dark in there that they're wrestling with. But because of your reactions in the past, you're like, oh, I'm so angry with you. I'm so disappointed. I can't believe that you would do something like that. And that oftentimes is so painfully hypocritical for you to talk like that. How dare you lie? How dare you look at this? How dare you whatever? Have you ever done things like that? By the way, have you ever lied? Have you ever stolen? Have you ever hurt someone? Have you ever, all of those things. Have you ever done? Yeah, you probably have. Almost certainly have. And if you haven't done those specific things, you've done things that are adjacent to those things that are just as bad. So don't act like your child is just like so morally bankrupt that you couldn't imagine, or you would never dream of someone of your stock or someone of your lineage would ever entertain such notions or engage in such activities. I mean, come on. Don't treat them like that. And that is so hurtful to them. So very, very, very hurtful. I'm talking about particularly young children. Now, if you have a child who has been trained in the way that they should go, and it's been properly reinforced, and for whatever reason they do make the decision to go in a different direction, it's very disappointing. Even then, I wouldn't recommend that you treat them as if they're dirt. You know, it can be very disappointing. It can be very hurtful, and you can communicate that hurt and that disappointment in ways that is not demeaning to them, but that is really more of a call to repentance. It's more of an invitation, and in a way, it is the communication of the fact that the door remains here and open if you will but walk through it. Kind of a prodigal son sort of thing. We're waiting for you to return. We're waiting for you to come back. And this is the best way, and you know it and I know it, sort of thing. But you don't want to be demeaning or you don't want to denigrate them or patronize them or anything of that sort. So when you're specifically with your younger children who don't know better yet, and they're still trying to sort all of this out, don't act like they're, the spawn of Satan because they told you a lie. Don't do that. You know what, that sort of reaction or that sort of interaction with your child actually serves to encourage them to keep on engaging in this sort of behavior. Because then they start to believe the lie that they are actually shot through with iniquity and evil, and there's no hope for them, and they'll always be bad, and they were always going to be bad. What's the use? I give up. I yield. And that's the last thing that you want them to believe or to entertain in their mind. Now, they need to be aware of the fact that they're capable of doing things that are in opposition to the will of God. That's very clear, but it's not a foregone conclusion. They have the opportunity to choose, and you need to do the best that you can in laying those two choices before them in no uncertain terms and with as much clarity as possible. Like, these are the two paths. Don't go over here. Don't go over here, and this is why. This other path over here is God is calling you to do these things, and please consider this, and please, you're appealing to them. You're not demanding. You're not forcing. You don't want a child who has been forced into righteousness, because that righteousness is never genuine. They might go through the motions, and they might look from all outward appearances as if they are engaging in the behaviors that are conducive to righteousness, or consistent with righteousness, I guess I should say. But the question is, is it in their heart? And again, how would you ever know if it's truly in their heart unless you're talking to them? Unless you're discerning what's really going on there, and have them talk to you. And they might be like, well, Mom, Dad, I do this, I do this and that and the other that you want me to do, but I don't even really understand why. And so doesn't do it, and I really don't think it's necessary. Like, oh, okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Well, that, you know what that means? We've got some more work to do. We have some more instruction to do. And, connected with the other, I will just give a little plug for the two other episodes that I've recorded before this in chronological order. And again, I don't know if they're going to post them in this order, but I talked about singing in your home and devotions in your home. That is a sign that they need more of that in their life. So they need more exposure to the truth and to the presence of the living God. And you can do that by singing in your home, and you can do that in family devotions. And if you're inconsistent with that, then they can easily stray, and they can easily become convinced that's all just lame and old-fashioned and unnecessary. But if you've been consistently doing that, they're more exposed to that spirit. They have a better shot at waking up and realizing, what is truly true and going in that direction. So that's a sign to you that maybe you need to pick that back up again, or you need to be more consistent with it, or the times in which you do sing and worship together need to be of a higher caliber. But beyond that, outside of that, that's in a corporate setting. That's with the family unit proper. Outside of that, you need to draw your child aside, pull them aside, and have a conversation with them, multiple conversations. Take them out to eat. Take them to a park. go on a walk, go on a drive, just the two of you, and sit down, have a conversation. Like, okay, now come on, talk to me. And just as it is with the singing in the home and the devotions in the home, at first, that first opportunity that you take to try to have a conversation with your child, there might be some pushback. And it might be like, again, it might be like Fort Knox in there. Like, nope, not doing it. It's like, okay. But maybe you just get like just a little crack, just a little ray of light there. They disclose just one thing or something that leads to another thing. You're like, okay, you can work with that. And then you take another opportunity and another opportunity. And as many opportunities as you possibly can. And that, just in and of itself, that exercise and sitting down and speaking with your child is an evidence that you love them. And that could very well be the thing that softens their heart to the extent that they will begin to share more and more information with you, because you need that information. I've been on multiple outings with my children where I'm talking with them, and we're just random chit chat. And I will admit sometimes, especially with some of my daughters, and actually I shouldn't say that. My son is the same way. My youngest son, good grief. You get him in a car and it's just the two of you, and you've got a million things on your mind, and he's back there just and it doesn't stop. Like, you could be driving 45 minutes somewhere and the boy hasn't taken a breath. And some of it I've probably tuned out most of it, but then you start listening. You're like, whoa, that's interesting. Okay, he's thinking about this. And okay, he's dealing with this. And okay, this happened the other day at church with a group of his friends, downstairs or whatever, and somebody hit somebody, or somebody called somebody stupid, or it's like, okay, there's that influence in their life. And so you got to, how would you know these things? How would you know these things if you're not talking to them? And on and on and on it goes. This goes for your 4-year-old, this goes for your 14-year-old, your 20-year-old, whatever. All of them have thoughts, all of them have experiences, all of them have things that they're struggling with. All of them have hopes and dreams, and so many other things. It's all resident there in the recesses of their heart, and you need to, as far as you're able and as far as appropriate, to plumb those depths, because that will help to better inform you on how you can train them in the way that they should go. So thank you for joining me again today. I hope this has been helpful in some way, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. So goodbye for now. Thank you for joining us this week on the Homeschool Solutions Show. You can find show notes and links to all the resources mentioned at homeschooling.mom. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast. And while you're there, leave us a review. Tell us what you love about the show. This will help other homeschooling parents like you get connected to our community. And finally, tag us on Instagram at homeschooling.mom. That's homeschooling, D-O-T, mom, to let us know what you thought of today's episode.